for men who refuse to stay complacent. Welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast with your host, Chris Anderson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Upgraded Man podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host, along with you on this journey to continually improve ourselves, our lives, our relationships, finances, all that fun stuff. So excited that you're listening, tuning in. If you haven't yet, follow the show, share this with someone else. We can help a lot more people. And I just appreciate y'all tuning in. So today we're going to be talking about money, finances, mindset around it. And the goal is, by the end of this episode, you're going to get a better understanding of why you feel behind, even though you're working so hard, and hopefully give you some moves to make in your household to make the money seem a little bit more calm this week. So, and doing it without any shame. We got an expert who's going to be chatting with us today about this. So I'm super excited to have Philip on the show today. Philip, welcome to the Upgraded Man podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, Chris.
Absolutely. So yeah, I want to, dive right into it. You've walked into a lot of rooms to talk to a lot of people who are just sure that they're quote unquote bad with money, right? That's the excuse. I'm just bad with money. But you change that. You tell them they're not necessarily bad. They're not failing with money. Things in the environment, the world has changed a little bit. So why are why is that true? How is it just the world has changed and you're not just being nice with that statement?
Yeah, it's funny. It took me a long time to understand. But when I found out, and it's not a secret, but when I found out that people are spending millions and billions of dollars to understand how we think, to market to us, to know the right times, the right things to market to us at the right times. And then we walk in without a plan. We wake up, have our coffee, and then we're inundated with things that those people are just trying to make money, make a living. But we walk in without a plan, just having our coffee and breakfast, and then we walk right into a lot of people's plans, and they seem so good at the time, but we just a lot of times don't have a plan.
Yeah, why is that? Why do so many people not have a plan with their finances, men specifically?
I guess we were never modeled it. I just think like when my friends get ready for like the Super Bowl party, they have a spreadsheet. Everybody's got like, this guy's got the wings, this guy's got, nobody has veggies, but they got the wings, they got the beer, they got the ice, who's got this, who's got that, when do we show up, and then when it comes to money, we don't have any ceremonial things like that. I don't know where that word just came from, but it's the same with like, if you get together and watch a fight or a lot of times we don't have plans for like money or date nights with our wives or girlfriends or whatever, like just nothing planned out.
So what do we do, like, because so many people listening to this, they're going paycheck to paycheck, right? They're working hard, but they get to they're scraping by before the next paycheck. Why? What is the story they're telling themselves, like, that they keep in that same process, that same cycle?
Yeah, so that's really good. So I designed a financial class, and as I was going through the information, I told my wife, I said, "Hey, can you check your phone?" And because she has an Apple, I'm a self-professing Android user, so I hope that doesn't cut off half the audience there. But and she literally had 12 Apple subscriptions on her phone. And it's just like death by a million. She didn't even remember, signing up for those. And it's just like death by a million cuts. That, and then one other big thing, this pretty big can of worms that we could open is, we're told that success is one of these 4 or 5 cars with this size house. And then so a scoreboard has been built that we all look at by people that sell us things. And I'm not like, I understand why it's that way, but I think we look at the scoreboard instead of trying to design our own scoreboards of what we really need versus what we're told is what is the American dream.
Yeah. And I think that scoreboard, get the nice car, get the nice house, aren't in themselves wrong,
No.
right? we might not be
No.
ready for those things. I think we purchase those things, we invest in those things way before we're actually ready to going back to not having a plan like you mentioned. So why is that? Why do we, we talk about not having a plan, but why do we jump into those investments, to keep up the Joneses, right? What is that thing that's keeping us doing that, that's actually keeping us down and making things a lot harder in life?
Yeah, I think we have all the right intentions. I think we just have them in the wrong. We don't just slow down just enough to put them in the right order. I remember living in a trailer park years and years and years ago, and then there was a guy in there with a Cadillac, and I'm like, so he has Cadillac, nothing bad with it, but it's just in the wrong order, right? And so whether you're cooking, whether you're no matter what you're doing, just taking the time to get things in the right order so that you can develop, money generating assets and then enjoy the nice car, the Jaguar, whatever it is. I think that's just the problem, is getting everything in the right order.
So you think it where's that fall back to? What is the underlying, why are we not getting a plan? Why are we not getting things in the right order? What's causing those things to happen?
I think it's, we see really good ideas. A lot of things I run across we see, and it even affects me. I mean, you see things on social media, you see, or your car just starts misbehaving, and then you're at a red light and you see another car and your friend just got it, and it, you're like, well, I could just get that car and it'll last a long time. But it's out of order, because we didn't possibly get our savings built up, or our retirement built up, or things like that.
So with that, you hear people talking all the time. They're like, I work 50 to 60 hours a week. I still can't afford X, Y, and Z. So do you think it's not that they're not making enough, it's they aren't planning their lifestyle better? Do you think that's the bigger cause of these people to have the negative mindset about money and things like that?
I do. I know. So I've just met so many people that have, lower incomes, from $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And that's not lower. I mean, in some areas that's great. In some areas, I've seen people that make $40,000 a year that retired at age 60, and just because they lived, below their means, and that can not be fun, and it doesn't make for a great story to tell a lot of times. It's more exciting if you bought the Bitcoin, when it was $100 or something like that. So people don't realize that it's just death by a million cuts. Because if you have a car payment, and then you have a truck payment, and then a boat payment, and then you have 10 or 12 subscriptions on your phone that are $10.99 a piece, it just really adds up.
Yeah. And you've mentioned the world changed, right? So
Right.
with that, what has actually changed in the last 20 years that the normal paycheck just doesn't feel like it stretches anymore?
Right. So it's funny, as I drive down the road, I see every coffee shop full. And, when I was growing up, I think there was Starbucks. There was maybe a Dunkin'. I don't even think they, people might get coffee at like McDonald's or something like that for like $1. And now it's the coffee shops and things like that, they're just full, and it's like $6, $7, $8, $10 a drink. And that wasn't normal 10 or 20 years ago. People didn't spend, because if you get one a day at $8, I mean, that's 300 and something bucks a month just in a coffee habit. And I don't think that was normal back then, as normal as it is now. And we used to have cars that were so bad you could name them and laugh about them.
Right.
And like 6 people in a car, you would have your buddies sitting on laps in the back. And now you see 6 cars show up. It's just a completely different scenario then. But the funnies are storier from the stories are funnier from back then, if you think about it.
Yeah. So I think it's, it's almost like we've seen prices increase, and people would argue that wages haven't increased during that time of prices going up. But I also think more people kind of, like to your point, the coffee and the cars, I think they're still having that mindset of lifestyle creep, of where they need to have more, or maybe it's you tell me if it's more of like the ease of things, like the comfort, or instead of just making a pot of coffee at the house, I don't have the time, or I don't want to do that because then I have to do dishes and all the convenience, I guess. Do you see people becoming a little bit more tied to convenience, which is causing them to pay for more things when they don't necessarily need it?
I do, and and I'm not like a anti-coffee guy, because I've had some really good meetings where I've had a coffee meeting, but I think it's really cool to I've seen some people with some really awesome coffee setups, to be honest, at their houses, and there's kind of a lost art, just kind of like the people started brewing their own beers, and then people would come over and do that, and I think we could get back to the coffee thing. I don't think we budget our money or our time correctly, because I think, gosh, time is going by so fast. My youngest kid just graduated this year, and I was like, that 18 years was a blur. And I was talking to her, and I said, not to get too bad off subject, but I was talking to her and I said, do you realize that you have stories from 6 years ago? And she's like, no. And I said, COVID was 6 years ago. I said, you were just a tot, like 12, and she's like, oh, I do have a 6-year-old story. And so paying attention to our time along with our money, because times you can't stop time. So,
right.
And I don't want to open that can of worms, I guess, but like it's, I think just budgeting our time and having more time to make, coffee at home and do the things at home that are less expensive.
Yeah. Because like that's one thing I've noticed, even for me personally, is I used to change the oil in my car on my own. I would do that. I would take the time to do that because it saved a little bit more money. But now it's like I go to take it to the oil, take 5 or whatever, sit there, they do it real quick. Because in my mind, it might be a little bit more expensive, but I can do things while they're changing the oil, and I'm also supporting the business. And I think it's also where we are in life too. Like we're able to do that, but I don't know. I think like people are paying for so many more subscriptions to watch shows instead of getting up and doing stuff, which, I think it's I think it's all tying into everything. We hear mental health is decreasing. We see so many more mental health, poor mental health cases. Health in general is going down. I think the making things simpler for people, convenience, quicker, I think it's causing a lot more issues in life, especially around finances. But also, I think there's like money is such a interesting topic, because I think it's like what the number one leader or causing in divorces, right, is finances. So like money, people feel like they tie their worth to money, right? So they feel shame if they don't have enough, or they're not making enough, or they can't pay for that trip or that car. And then it makes them, go into debt to get it, so they don't feel that shame. Why do you think guys have that shame around, money and that kind of title it puts on them?
Right. Yeah. Somehow we have, that's such a good thought, Chris. Like somehow we have tied our worth to money, and my wife and I have gotten to a place to where we are financially set, but I don't think we're any more valuable. What we make is directly connected to the value we bring to the industry that we're in, not to the value that we are as a person. I fully believe that, because I've seen some people in some minimum wage jobs that are just phenomenal people that I've ran across and saw them at church or saw them at some mission or organization, and they're just phenomenal people that just make a low income and probably on purpose, so that they have mental and emotional margin for their passion.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do that. And if we see somebody go on a trip, the best way to do it is to flip out that plastic if you don't have the cash to do it, so that you can go have that experience too. And then we pay for it for the next, 12 to 24 months, wishing that we didn't. So like money is such a funny thing. Yeah, it is.
So what are some things, like obviously you've learned, how to handle money, how to plan money, but it wasn't always like that, right, for you?
No, we we came from pretty tough times. It's funny now that we've sold our company. My wife and I do the same things that we did when we first met and we were broke. That's how we still have fun. We go bike riding, we go walking, whatever else we do other things for fun, but that's a lot of it. So our life isn't much different. But yeah, we came from, tough places. We were homeless at one time, for a good while. And so a lot of my mission early on was to never be homeless again.
Yeah. Because what did that make you feel like? What was that experience of, having no home and figuring things out? What did that feel like for you, and how did you manage that?
So it was tough, and no one knew except just a couple of really close friends. So we were in pretty low income jobs. And our landlord came to us one day and said, "Hey, we really like you, really trust you. My dad has Alzheimer's, and I'll give you free rent in this house if you'll go take care of him during the day, if your wife will." So we did that, and after that, his dad passed away after about a year and a half, and we were just making enough to make ends meet. Right. So and we didn't know he was going to just pass away. So when he did, all of a sudden we had no more free rent. He had no reason to give us free rent anymore, and we found ourselves not being able to afford a place to live. So for a good while, probably, I don't know, under a year, I think, we were homeless. And we saved up. We had a couple of friends help us get out of that place, and out of the home where we were watching the gentleman. And so we saved and struggled and saved and struggled, and that just kind of like scarred me and seared into me to never have that happen again. And then later on, I accidentally started a business that worked out well.
Yeah. So what steps did you start taking then to change that financial trajectory that you were on? Being broke, having no money, not being able to afford things. What were things that you started to change or implement that helped you get a better foothold on your finances?
So I started listening to people.
Yeah.
And I started putting myself, I said, okay, who I'm hanging around with is not getting me, and I did not know the principle of the 5 people you hang around is who you become. Yeah. I just knew that I needed to be around different people. So I started exposing myself to different friends and getting in different circles, and they talked differently. And it was a really slow momentum growing for me. But that was one of the ways. And then we found a financial class that helped us out also.
When you say you got around different friends that talk differently, what does that mean, talk differently?
Well, I got a job at an engineering firm. Even though I was a laborer, I would meet with each one of the engineers, and I would talk to them, and just hearing their decision-making processes and how they would analyze things. And, if I had $200, I wanted to try to go to the beach for the weekend. and they didn't talk like that. They talked very differently. They they were all, as engineers are, they're just always planning. Yeah. And so I would listen to them and began to understand that they had very, very different thought processes.
So what were they thinking? Instead of going to the beach, what were they thinking? What was that difference?
Well, a couple of them were beginning to start their own engineering firms. So they had to start planning further out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to not compete with my current employer and be able to start my own engineering firm? And it was really cool to watch that, to try to have an integrity and be able to start something on their own, and just watching the decisions they would make, the way they would negotiate situations, even when there was someone that got an answer they didn't like about their structure in the engineering department, the way they would negotiate it and just talk through how, not to be emotional about something, just to dissect the bad and install the good.
Mm. So how would someone looking at their finances, maybe they open their banking app and they see that they'll have a lot left to get them through the next handful of days or next week, whatever it is. How can they dissect those moments where they're not emotional so they can take the right next steps?
The number one step is to open the app because a lot of people don't open the app. You
Okay.
get the online alert, it's below this balance.
Yeah.
So the number one is to say, hey, I'm not going to deal with what I've done wrong at the moment, and I'm not going to feel any shame. We just need to go forward from today forward. Ed Milet talks about, just his book is One More, The Power of One More, and his dad just out of alcoholism just tried to do one more day into the future. You can't
Yep.
do one more day into the past.
Yep.
And so just going and saying, what can I do today after opening the app? What one thing can I cut out so that I can just get a win? Just one win, just one win leads to major victories.
Yeah. And so they're trying to take these steps. What usually keeps people stuck and not actually improving their finances?
Not knowing where to start,
Right.
everything being so big, trying to throw money, at one thing instead of coming up with a plan, like the debt domino, which is very about the same as the debt snowball. Debt, they're all the same. Just going after one thing and getting that one win, because otherwise, if you just open your app and you see 100 transactions this month, everybody wants to close it, right? There's just too many. So you just pick one, laser focus, and just, is it really necessary? Is this really, if you see I can't even imagine what it is. Just one expense. Is this really leading to where I want to be? Because I'm having to work for this money. Do I really want to work to pay for that one thing?
Yeah. So you think people just don't realize or don't have a clear direction where they want to even go?
Right. Yes. I remember one time, we were we were just starting in business, and I realized that I cannot remember for the life of me what we bought, but I looked in my bank account and I said, I worked this whole week for a guy that I really didn't even like on that one job site. And it was just to pay for this one thing. And I was like, I don't even want that thing anymore. So that's the way I placed it in my mind.
Yeah. Because doesn't the quote unquote, the shame, the bad feelings, isn't that what drives most men to change, or is that not a good enough motivator anymore?
I think it can, as long as it's not too big, like if there's a ton of shame, that's hard to deal with, in my opinion.
Right.
But if there's a little bit and you're like, I can't believe I did that. So I tend to write them down and journal a little bit, just to say, hey, is this really going towards who I want to be later?
Yeah. I think figuring that out, because then, if you cut away caring about what everyone else thinks of you and that, then you hopefully are less likely just to buy things to fit in, and you'll stick with that goal, whether
Right.
it be financial freedom, maybe it's traveling more with your family, whatever is super important to you. And then you got to write it down and keep that, because, you could take the steps. You could open the app. You could see, okay, we're going to start paying this one thing off little by little, and then unexpected things happen. Right. And then you've got another bill. And so, I feel like people just sometimes get started and they just keep getting hit with things and they feel like they're drowning. And then they just either give up or, they either give up or keep going, obviously. So, how do you talk to a guy who's like, I'm trying, Philip, I'm trying to do this. I'm taking it step by step. I know where I'm wanting to go, but I just keep getting hit with all these expenses that I don't see happening or I don't see coming, and they're really outside my control. How do you talk a guy through that?
There are some situations where that is in like medical or something like that, but everything else is pretty much environmental.
Yep.
So if you just mentally picture, everyone listening has probably either lost someone in their family or is about to, or knows someone that's very close to them.
Yep.
And if you imagine, I can only imagine, when my grandfather passed away, just a couple years ago, you look around in the room where everyone is, the family is, and there was no Jaguars in there. There was no fifth sets of golf clubs. There was no whatever. There was nothing in that room, but everything that was in that room is what mattered. And I think sometimes we can get away from that, and things aren't bad. I mean, I like having things, but I want to make sure that I'm not working for things, right? Yeah. So just picture what's super important to you and your best memories ever. And if a lot of your things in there, I mean, Bruce Lee said, hack away at the essentials.
Yeah.
If some of your best memories don't have some of the things you have in your garage, maybe sell them, and just go after what's creating the best memories in your life.
And I think there's that right there is what you're saying. There's a blockage or there's a fear with that, right? Because they realize, hey, I don't need these, this car, or maybe we got too big a house, or so I think the fear of what others will think when they sell it holds a lot of people back from doing just that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the same people, if you got rid of the things that we're talking about right now, the same people that would think something about you getting rid of it, they would also think something when you go to the Bahamas in cash because you don't have any more payments.
Yep. Yeah.
And they'll be jealous of you the other way.
Yep.
We're always gonna, Jesus had critics in his own town,
Yep.
I get it. Like I sometimes do get caught up in the fear of man, but then I'm like, gosh, what do I want? Do I want to be free, or do I want to have these things that I'm having to pay for?
Yeah. I mean, Jesus said, like, leave everything and follow me, right? And that was like their jobs, as their family, even like, so that's the thing, like to steward the money well, right? Trying to steward the money the best we can. So how does someone, if they're working on all this, they're trying to, cut expenses, they're trying to get out of debt, how do they still steward that money well? Or is just paying off the debt stewarding it well enough?
So, I think involving someone, even if you just take a class, like if you want to, I have friends that take jujitsu classes just because they wanted to, get in shape, learn a skill. There's a lot of business guys and leaders that just take jujitsu just to get their mind off of things, but they have to take a class, right? You can't just go do jujitsu in your front yard by yourself.
Yeah.
And, so like taking a class, taking, guys won't be slow to hire a golf instructor coach, but like, so it's just literally saying, hey, I'm going to do this and committing to it because it affects, generations. Getting 10% better on your golf swing versus completely getting your finances rock solid and then teaching it to your kids to carry that on for generations. When you weigh them together like that, it's a pretty easy decision.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I have kids and thing on that. Like what are some financial guardrails or teachings that we can start implementing in our families, with our kids if we have them? What are some main things that we should be teaching the next generations?
Wow, that's a good question. That to have fun as a family, and to have fun as a family or friends if you're not living near your family, to be able to just get a group together and just have really good sociable fun, whether it's playing games out in the field, whether it's whatever it is, whatever your thing is, and learning to not spend money and not because all it does is just create a job, and I think I'm gonna sound like the anti-money guy here. I do, live on a house on the marsh, but like but working diligently, trying to think about how to have fun in ways that don't cost money most of the time, I think.
Yeah, I think because life's short, right? And so like it's that balance of like enjoying life, but still adding value to the world and I think it's such a hard thing because like we have toddlers, right? And so, financially, like you want to make those memories, right? You want to take the trips, you want to do things like that with them. On the other hand, you can't do every trip you want, right? Because it's going to set you off or set you back. So it's like walking that line, right? Wanting to make the memories, wanting to have those experiences for them, but not overdoing it where then you're in the negative or in the red, right? And then teaching them about finances, things that maybe we weren't taught. Are there financial things that you weren't taught that you wish you were taught that have now taught your kids?
Yes. So I wasn't taught any financial. There wasn't much talk in my home.
Yeah.
Let's see, teaching them to save. Right now they're working on moving out over the next couple of years, and so how much do they need to save to be able to move out and have cushion?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the talks, because you don't want to move out and struggle. You don't want to, move out and live lavish either, right?
Yep.
Because the struggle is so important. It reminds me of the story of like sea turtles.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, and you may be familiar with it, but years ago, forever, sea turtles have, crawled on land, buried their eggs down a couple feet down the beach, and then they swim off, and then their hatchlings have to hatch, climb up about 2 feet, cross the beach, and then get into the ocean. And some people tried to, they felt bad for the little egglets, right? And then so they started digging them out and helping them and kind of put them in the water, and they all got eaten and they all died.
Yeah.
Because they needed to build that muscle to dig out of that hole and climb across the beach. That was the muscle they needed to swim away from predators. Mm-hmm. And it's such a good analogy. Like I think things are laid out that way for us on purpose. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my kids. I don't get it all right by any stretch of the imagination, but just trying to teach them that they have to work for it, and the saving up. And we were just looking at one of them's budget this morning. We use this really cool budgeting app that does a lot of things for you. And she was struggling because she went on a spending spree yesterday. and it's easy to just blow everything, just with everything that's out there.
Yeah. So, and I like that. I think that the sea turtle kind of story is true. I mean, in life, finances, everything, there's going to be struggles. There's going to be hard moments. And if you look at it in the moment, it's going to seem terrible. It's going to seem like the end of the world. It seems like you're not going to make it. Right. And so it's remembering that there's a whole story. It's not just that moment. And being able to look back and say, hey, yeah, those moments were hard, but it's shaped me and it's helped me get to where I am. And I'm going to be better for it.
Right.
And there's still going to be struggles. Those turtles are still going to have to swim away from danger. They're going to have to still go find food. They're still going to have to, do all the challenges that are come with after that initial, but they're better equipped. And then they are better equipped after that struggle or that challenge and what they learned there. And the same with life. And so seeing each challenge that you face is like, hey, I'm going to learn. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to be better. Trying to keep a positive mindset, and then teaching the ones behind, right? The ones who come after. And
right.
Hey, do as I say and not as I do sometimes, right? Because we aren't perfect and we made mistakes. So, hey, this is what I did wrong. Don't do that if you want to, try to avoid some of the same pains that I had to go through, kind of thing.
Right.
So with that too, I don't know. It's you mentioned an app. Is there a good app you recommend for adults to use to kind of budget and get a hold? Because that can seem daunting, right? Trying to look at all your finances and transactions and what you're spending. And is there a good one for people to start with?
So we recommend Monarch Money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's these really cool people that have come up with this app, and it's read only, so it doesn't download your, it doesn't have access to your bank accounts, but it pulls everything from all of your 401ks, all your IRAs, everywhere into one place, and it shows you your net worth.
Yep.
And it also shows you habits. One thing that I like is it will alert you if you have a recurring expense. And I'll tell you, we have saved a ton on that because we have I don't know if you've ever like used like a QR code creator or something, and you do the free 7-day trial and you forget to cancel it.
Yep.
And then they start dinging you for $29.95 a month, and then Monarch will come up and say, "Hey, did you mean for this to be a recurring expense?" And I'm like, "No," So that's been amazing for us, and we've had a lot of friends that have had a lot of success with it.
That's great. Yeah, I've used Monarch too.
Yeah.
It's a good app. It's but how do people not get overwhelmed? Starting on the app, again, a lot of transactions, maybe a lot of debt that they're dealing with, just a lot of things. How do they not get overwhelmed when trying to start to get a hold of all this?
Yeah, so that's the question. So what we do is during our class, we have them, just download the app, and then don't even, some of them, we tell them don't even bother with it for a week. Just let it start categorizing, because it'll categorize the transactions for you. And as you know, and now it'll get a few wrong, because if something is named something that doesn't reflect what it is. And some people immediately start looking at it, and then some people are like a little scared and intimidated by it.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through and we'll just say, hey, let's just categorize 2 days worth of transactions, like 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll just say, put it away, and then we'll start categorizing and say, did you know, and then eventually they look at it after 2 or 3 times and they're like, oh, I'm spending $3,000 on groceries.
Right.
And let them kind of ease into it, kind of like a wading pool, or anything else, the way God designed the ocean. We can't jump in the deep end, right? We have to we have to kind of wade out, deeper and deeper.
Yeah. So with that, people are doing this because we can justify spending money and getting into debt on anything, right? We can always justify it. We can always talk our way into saying this is why we did it. It makes sense to us. How do we set up guardrails to avoid going down the debt rabbit hole, I guess we could call it? Because like I said, we could justify it. We can say this is why we're doing this. We'll get paid off. What are some guardrails, or how do we change that mindset of justification of doing those things?
Yeah. So like, if something goes down in value, then you're getting like a double negative. We don't push the pay cash for cars.
Okay.
Like only, we recommend it highly, but we recommend, no more than a 3-year loan with 30% down kind of thing. And because cars unfortunately usually do go down in value, but other things that go down in value, try to never finance. That's one of the things that we recommend. There's nothing worth it. One of the examples we give in lesson, I think it's 5, is, when you're financing something at, 7-8% interest, 6-7-8% interest. What's interesting about that, and one big aha moment I had was, I'm also trying to make 8% in my 401k, after expenses and things.
Yeah.
So when we finance something, whether it's a couch or whatever it is, an ATV, boat, we're actually funding someone else's 401k by paying that 6-8%. So that one really stuck with me when I found that out.
That is an interesting way to look at it. And I think, if we can just figure out like what will deter us. And I think a lot of it, again, goes back to how the environment's changed, social media, unfortunately, things like that, of like, there is no delayed gratification anymore, right? If we want something, we can get it instantly. And I think that plays a huge part into people just saying, well, I'll just finance the couch, or I'll do the paying for, or the, whatever it is for whatever thing that's just going to collect dust and not really add value, or, because it's more of a liability than an asset.
Right. Yeah. Amazon is same day now, right?
Yeah. So I think that's another thing we're battling, is we're getting so used to getting it right when we want it. Like, I found myself complaining like, oh, this isn't going to be here in 2 days. I'm going to look for a different product. Like, and it's like something that you have to be kind of aware of.
Right.
And, if you want that couch, do you really need it now, where it's going to cost more than if you could just save up in time and pay cash, with the interest if you were to finance it. So do you really need, is it life and death? Is it really that big a deal kind of thing to get the couch right now, or just wait till you save up enough to pay for it? So I think those are things, if you can start thinking of it that way, I think, and just delay gratification some, you see it even in the health field, like people just want to take a pill to lose the weight instead of actually working out. Like they just want to take a drug to shed the pounds instead of actually doing the work, and it's just a Band-Aid. But anyways, yeah, I think there's a lot around it. I think mindset's huge, like we talked about, like not seeing the shame of it. Not if you're not at the same level, quote unquote, as everyone else, you don't know what their finances look like. You don't know what that household looks like because of the stress of the debt they're probably in to get to that point. So don't compare yourself to someone else when you don't know, what's going on internally with their story. But and it's been a great conversation, Philip. I appreciate you sharing and giving stories and guiding on how we can start, taking the right next steps with our finances to improve our future, improve the future of generations to come. And so, as we round things out, the Upgraded Man, what we've been doing is we have this journal, and each guest leaves a comment question for the next guest to come. That guest, then I read it to them and they respond, and then they'll leave someone for the next guest. And so before we get into that, though, because I'm excited for what Dr. Joe left for you, is there anything we missed in this conversation that you're like, Chris, I have to be able to tell this to the listeners to help them, or something important that we might not have covered?
It takes courage to deal with finances, because for some reason it's just the weirdest subject. Even it's even more weird than sex. Like it's you can't talk about finances at all. And I don't think we should pull out our wallets and fan out our hundreds. But I also think that there's a lot of people that truly want to know and have no clue, right? Like we don't have a problem going to the gym and showing a guy how to do a few sets on a couple of the machines. And it should be that simple, right? To just be able to share it with people. I wish somebody would have shared it with me long before I lived in a tent.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great thing kind of to round out that conversation. And yeah, I think we can change a lot for our future generations as we make these changes, and as we see things different and take different steps. So but the previous guest I've had on was Dr. Joseph Hagen, and this is what he left for you. So I'm going to read it to you, let you kind of answer how you feel fit. So he asked, if the goal you were chasing wasn't impossible, or any goal, if a goal that you're chasing or wanted to chase wasn't impossible, what would that goal be, or what would you do?
Such a good, timely question. Well, I'll just bring it personal. So on this class, this financial class that I developed, that's the one thing that I would think would be a goal that would be, seemingly impossible, to bring something from nothing to existence, and then try to get people to want to work on their finances, when people really want more of an outcome than it's not fun to work on your finances, right?
Right.
So what would I do? I think write it down, and I hope I'm going in the direction you want, but write it down and put it on display on my window right in front of my desk, where I have to stare at it with a visual of it each day. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do after we get off here.
That's awesome.
So yeah, is that the full question? Was there more to the question?
No, Chris? That was it. So basically you're saying, creating this course, this class for finances, that's what you're going after. That's what you're doing, because that's good. Because a lot of people, they have goals maybe to build something like that, or like what I did, quit my job to build a business, do a podcast, whatever it is, but they let that fear, they let what other people could think stop them And so if they don't think if it wasn't impossible or if it would work or whatever, what would you do? And some people don't chase their goals and dreams because, whatever reason they give it, whatever excuse they give it.
Right.
They're missing on a lot of stuff. So that was perfect. So I guess to flip the coin there, back on you, what comment, question, what do you want to leave for the next guest?
Oh gosh. That was such a timely question. You said comment. Can it be like a quote?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Quote, comment, anything.
So I'm going to say something that struck me. I moved to Charleston 3 years ago, and I, there has been like a little bit of a shift over the past decade, and I don't want to get too political, but getting men getting soft and it being kind of like applauded, and I got into a place to where I didn't feel like I fit in because I've been this construction worker. I've been just thought differently. Mm-hmm. And I heard this guy on a YouTube short, or it was a podcast or something. And Jordan Peterson is where I heard it. I don't know if he originated the quote, but I literally pulled over and just had to regain myself. Huh. But he said, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And I was like, wow. Yep. Thank you for somebody giving a little bit of credence to that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that meant so much to me.
I love that. And I love that quote. And I think I mentioned it. I don't know if it was in the last episode or a couple episodes ago, but that quote resonates with me so much because we've talked about that, like, masculinity is being attacked, and true masculinity, right. It's not toxic. And that's the thing. And people are meshing it together. Right. And we're leaning the wrong way with it. But yeah, I go back to that quote a lot. I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And you want to be able to be dangerous, and you want to be able to be hard and rough and tough when you need to be, but you also have to be able to be gentle and be caring and loving, to take care of delicate things. And so, no, I love that. I'm excited to put that one. I'm excited to put that one in the journal for the next guest. So thank you for that one. Cause I love that quote. So, again, Philip, this has been a great episode. If people want to connect with you, hear more about your course you're building, just learn from you more, where's the best place for them to go do that?
At yourmoneyessentials.com is where my class is, and we do online and, in person, and corebusinessessentials.com for business coaching, which we didn't get into that area, but that's the two places.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So everyone, make sure you check those out, get connected with Philip, continue to learn from him. He's doing great stuff. Excited for what you're doing with your class there, Philip. So again, thanks so much for being on the Upgraded Man podcast today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been great. Absolutely.
And if you're listening to this again, and you're not following the show yet, well, what are you doing? Go follow, hit that little button over there so we can continue to have the reason to put these out there to help more people and share this with a guy who's, maybe starting in a career, just graduated college, or maybe, they're struggling. Send this to them, give it as a little bit of motivation for them, a little bit of encouragement that, they're not alone. We've all kind of been through it. We're all different places with our finances. So share it so we can help more people together. But until next time, continue to go out there, upgrade your lives, and we'll talk to you again soon.